Everybody, welcome back to the Beyond the Peloton podcast. I'm Spencer Martin, author of the Beyond the Peloton newsletter. As always, I'm here with Andrew Vance from the Choose the Hard Way podcast, betterlab.io. It's our 2025 kickoff. We're talking whatever we want to talk. The main thing I think we have to get to, Andrew, is this. There's something that's happening. CIA operation, perhaps. Running and cycling. Like every famous cyclist is now a runner. They want you to run. We have to get the FDJ, the women's team, is now sponsored by Nike, a company that offers no cycling products. So we have to get to the bottom of this. We'll talk Wout van Aert, cyclocross, what's going on heading into the new year. But most importantly, if you want to plug anything, go ahead, and then we're going to get an update from you, how your holidays went.
I mean, part of me just wants to jump into this Run Club PSYOP and announce the creation of the Choose the Hard Way by Better Lab by Beyond the Peloton Run Club that's kicking off in Tucson on January 21st. But we're going to hold off on that. Yeah, it's the beginning of the year. I'm sure a lot of you have a lot of resolutions, and one of those is probably to perform better or tackle some big training goal. And you probably have a pretty robust training plan to do that. The number one thing you can do, though, because it's the ultimate amplifier of health, wellness, and your performance at those gravel races, is to get great sleep. If you want to do that, go to the Apple App Store and download the Better Lab today. We guide you to build science-backed practices to sleep better and consistently do them, which that's kind of the sticky wicket for most people. So go check it out. You can shoot me a DM at HardwayPod and let me know how it's going for you. Thanks to everybody who listens, who is using the Better Lab and has reached out. I know a lot of you are getting great results, sleeping better, feeling better, and being prepared for those big monster 100-mile training rides on Tuesday mornings in Tucson.
You have to. What are you doing if you're not? We don't have a sponsor for this episode, but I have to give a shout out to Maui Cyclery. I was marooned on Kauai with my family over the New Year's. If you know anything about Kauai, not good cycling. There's not a lot of roads, not a lot going on in Kauai other than just like beautiful views and a lot of rain.
Hardship deployment for sure.
Yeah, I got to get out of there. I jump on a Hawaiian Airlines plane. I get over to Maui. 15 minutes later, I'm landing on Maui. Donnie Arnaud from Maui Cyclery picks me up at the airport, gives me a bike, gives me a helmet, gives me bottles, gives me electrolytes. We go out for an unbelievable. I had forgotten how beautiful Maui was. It is like the bluest of the blue sunlight you've ever seen in the middle of winter. We're talking perfect high 70s. Just you could ride all day. We do just a little warm up. We do like 4,200 feet of climbing. We're not even halfway up the climb after that. And then we cruise through Kula, go back to town in Paia, and then Donnie drives me back to the airport. I fly back to Kauai with the family. I got to say, great day. Thank you, Donnie. Thank you, Maui Cyclery. If you're in the neighborhood, just head over to Maui. They'll take care of you.
Yeah, if you're island hopping and flying just to do a ride for the day, this is definitely the cyclery you want to hit up. So thank you.
It made me question my life decisions. I'm like, well, I used to live there, and then now I don't. Like, what am I doing? What am I doing? I couldn't get past it. It was haunting me the rest of the trip.
Yeah, well, you have to think about your quality of life, I think, is proportionate to your proximity to the Valmont cyclocross race course.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, so it's like, what's your Valmont number? That's basically the thing everyone listening should ask themselves. That's question one. Question two is, like Cody the Kid Kaiser, can you ride the stairs of Valmont yet? And if not, what are you doing to attain that goal in 2025?
Can Cody Kaiser can ride the stairs?
Yeah, that's one of Cody's apex moments in his career, I would say, the infamous Valmont stair ride video.
Now we got to know which, because there's two staircases out there. There's the 5280 and then there's the Belgian stairs.
I'm talking about the giant steps. Yeah.
No, okay, you've got me back. We spend a lot of nice family time out at Valmont. They don't have that. They don't have that in Maui. So maybe I have made the right decision, but I will say, you forget, like, you spend one day there, you've wiped the mainland from your mind. The mainland becomes a monolith. You only refer to it to talk about people that are not with you at the moment. I don't know. They're on the mainland. You don't think about the weather. If someone told you, it's 0 degrees Celsius and snowing in Berlin right now, you'd say, that's impossible. How could weather be that bad? Like, you really start to acclimate to that weather quite quickly. And then it's shocking when you come home and it's snowy. But Andrew, before we get into running, we are doing a challenge. We did the Festa 500, the fake best of 500. Now we're Everesting. You might say, wow, that's hard. You guys are Everesting? I'm impressed. We're doing over the course of the week. I'd say still pretty hard. Like, it's not that easy.
No, it's not that easy. It's not. And maybe the biggest challenge, I know that we have some employees at Zwift, some people who are pretty high up actually, who listen to this podcast. And I think one of the greatest challenges of this challenge is finding somewhere to just ride up a hill on Zwift without having to get off your bike and start a new course because you run out of vert and it's forcing you to ride back down the climb and do a fake downhill, which has no utility. So my big question that keeps coming up for me over and over, and I can talk in a moment because I know, Spencer, you and others have been very curious about what my strategy is to maximize time going up a hill on Zwift. Can't we do better? It's 2025. How Zwift has been around for a decade. I think they've raised $500 million of venture capital. Can you just give me a way to ride up a hill as long as I want without having to get off my bike or touch a computer? Because the companion app, which is like one of 3 apps you need to run this product, doesn't allow you to actually do the thing you want to do. So like that's my number one feature request. My second request is, could you just have an actual flat course? I mean, you've got Tempest, Fugit, but could we just have somewhere flat to ride that's truly flat? Is that too much to ask? Please. I think these are things people would like just for their training.
Yeah, but I would say they have gotten better. You introduced me. I had no idea this climb existed. I did a new climb on Zwift yesterday.
Don't steal my thunder, man. Don't steal my thunder.
He'll know. Pretty good. You can start right at the bottom.
Yeah.
And then I think the best way, it's a little lame, but if you go to the top to the radio tower, the secret climb, the extra climb, I forget what they call it. If you really want to rack up vert, you go to the tippy top. It's Col du Zwift, not Alp du Zwift. Col du Zwift. And you just do the last mile over and over and over again. It's like an average of 13%. And then there's like a little bowl at the bottom. Like, I wonder if you could like turn around and you're like doing this, just coasting.
With the Col du Zwift hack that you're talking about, man, we're really getting in the weeds. But if you listen to this podcast, I bet you know what we're talking about because you've tried to do something like this before. So with Col du Zwift, you introduced me to this. I think this is the backside of Radio Tower, like you said, right?
Yeah.
So you start and then you have to hit something on the companion app and it has to work at just the right moment. So you take a turn that you wouldn't normally take that's off route, and then it gets you onto the climb. I've unfortunately had the experience the last time we did this. So we did the same challenge about this time last year. So this might be a Beyond the Peloton HQ PSYOP. I was looking back at my files from when we did it last year. But last year we were using this radio tower route. And I remember maybe 30% of the time the button would work on the companion app to make the turn. And then otherwise you go onto the regular route. You miss that turn, suddenly you're going downhill. I was just like, I can't tell you how many times I was on the trainer just, no, I had to get off, like figure out a way to do the U-turn and go back and try to do it again. So for anyone who's listening, the route that Spencer mentioned, which he spotted my file, because I keep uploading this climb over and over and over again, because it's all I'm doing. There's this route called Oh Hill No. To get there, on the main menu, press 1 and ask for Judy, the operator. Now, so when you're on the main menu, you have to go to routes. Then I found the easiest way to do it: sort routes by name. Then you go to Oh Hill No.
I never would have found it if it wasn't for you telling me.
Then
it's not easy to find.
Yeah, you hit start. It does. You have maybe like 100 meters of flat, and then it's a climb, and then. Yeah, so it's 1,000-foot climb. What I do at the top after I get to 1,000 feet, it actually goes to 1,004 feet, but you're wasting about a minute of ride time to get the extra 4 feet, which I don't think is worth it. So I hit 1,000 feet. I get off my trainer because I don't have a trainer desk thing. And then I have to go to my computer. I stop the ride. I save it. Have to go through all that BS. Then I have to go back to the menu and then repeat this process of go to routes, search, because it's not even popping up as like, hey, these are frequently ridden routes. It's just a pretty bad user experience, and in my opinion, or at least for me. And so that's the way that I'm doing it. I'm doing it 1,000 feet at a time, stone by stone, climbing to the sky. The thing that's really funny about this is Zwift made this big hoo-ha. I think it was back in June. They announced that they had this route or this climb called the grade. And the purpose of this climb is for you to be able to have a steady grade to do an FTP test. So initially, when we started this challenge, I was searching around. I'm like, where is the grade? Where is the grade? Because there's nothing called the grade. There's not a route called the grade. The grade is a climb that is on the route called Oh Hill No, which somehow I figured out through a bunch of Googling and Reddit. So I don't understand, like, you announce this big feature. You're finally giving people a steady climb. Why make it just 1,000 feet is something I don't understand. I guess it's roughly 20 minutes for most people, but I would like an infinity climb so that I could climb as long as I want without having to get off my bike or go back down a fake hill. But that's how you find it. So the grade is actually on Oh Hill No. And this is a mystery for me, Spencer, given that this hill is supposed to be for doing an FTP test. After the first 400 vertical feet, there's a flat section for about, I don't know what the distance is, but it's about 30 seconds of pedaling. And then you climb again and it gets steeper. Why? Why can't we just have a hill? Like, I thought this was a hill to do an FTP test. It's like,
yeah, like, what is the constraint? There's no physical constraint. It's like, well, we got to lay this road on the land that we were given. It's like, you're designing it. Well, what are we doing here?
Do you know something about FTP tests? I don't know. Where after riding for like 8 minutes, you would want to have a flat rest. Yeah, you know what? Let's back it off. Let's back it off a little.
You got to catch your breath because you're over threshold. Maybe that's what they're telling you. You got to be over threshold for the first 8 minutes. Rest. I do the downhills because we're getting into actual useful information here. Because I'm in a year-long distance competition with Johan Brunel, and I've been talking a pretty big game about 2025. So I need every mile I can get. The downhills let me do that. I also do, get to the top of the climb, you turn around, I do some burpees, maybe do some pull-ups, maybe do some weight circuits. So I'm doing that on the downhills, and it lets me introduce like other workouts into my cycling. Another thing.
Hold on, what are you doing? You just you
jump off, do some burpees.
You turn your avatar around and then you start doing a workout on the ground?
I'm working out and I'm racking up miles so I can bury Johan in January. Get him to abandon this race.
Well, I'm glad that when we started this challenge that I brought up, you have to do this at 100% elevation simulated, whatever it's called. Because,
I can't do the climb portal, by the way. Like, I just can't. I don't know, something about it. I cannot be in there.
What do you mean?
Like, there's these special little climb portals.
Yeah, but why can you not do a climb portal?
I just mentally, I can't be in there. Like, it's just I need the real life. I need to look at the Nintendo 64 graphics, like, of the climb.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
It just breaks me mentally.
Yeah. All right. You know what? I don't have a problem with the climb portal. The thing that bothers me about the climb portal is, again, maybe this is because you don't really have the ability to you can't switch between worlds on Zwift from the companion app, which I feel like we're talking about Dungeons and Dragons. It really shouldn't be this complicated. But the thing that I do, again, I've got a big TV set up for Zwift. I have a computer running the game. And then I have a dongle with my Bluetooth and my amp. God, this is so complicated. And then I have my phone with me on the bike, and I'm using an old rim brake bike because it's superior technology, and I like having a real bike that I'm riding. Anyhow, you can't switch between worlds from the phone, and you also can't switch routes. You can switch your location within a world, right? So you can hop around from pace partners. But with the climb portal, if you select the climb portal, it takes place in a specific world, and it forces you, probably because they know it's so complex to switch routes while you're on the bike, it gives you a little bit of a warm up. So typically you're going to waste 5 or 10 minutes riding along on flat or rolling terrain before you then turn into the climb portal to begin the climb, which ostensibly is why you've selected the climb portal, because you want to go up a hill, right? Right? So that's the thing that bothers me. I mean, I could probably stare at drywall and do this because, that's why I have the big TV. I've been watching The Wire from season 1. I started over. What a series.
What a series. You're having the
Yeah.
time of your life in there.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't believe we're still talking about Zwift, but so you run a computer. This is the weird thing about Zwift. Like you run it on a computer, it takes a lot of memory. I don't know, maybe that's what they call it.
Right.
GPU, CPU.
Yeah.
I run it on a phone. I have 15 phones. I'm just like, I have a Zwift only phone. I'm running that on my phone. So I have it right in front of me. I can do whatever I need to do. I can switch worlds. I cast it to the TV. Looks just like it does when you run it on a computer. Our iPhone's just super powerful. Maybe it's a lower version of the game and doesn't take up as much memory. I don't understand it, but that's my hack around having.
I don't see. I've been using Zwift since I think 2015. I don't probably as long as Zwift has been around. I don't even know that. That might be a good thing for someone to communicate to me in product marketing. And
run it on the phone.
Yeah, and also I don't know. Like you go in the app. I guess I'll give this a shot today. But I mean, I then wonder how would you integrate both your ANT Plus and Bluetooth sensors unless you're running an ANT Plus dongle into your phone? We shouldn't be having this conversation, by the way. This is an indication of complexity at a degree of complexity that really shouldn't exist in a consumer product, probably.
Yeah, I mean, I just Bluetooth it. Like my power meter's Bluetooth and the phone,
because you're running power meter pedals, right?
Oh man, if we're gonna want to get deeper into the weeds here, yeah. So I have a Peloton. If you're gonna press me on this, I have a Peloton.
Wow, did everybody hear that? We've had a public admission that Spencer's getting on a Peloton to do this. Oh, let me ask you this,
because they're stable.
But
how do you make any noise?
How do you feel confident you've replicated, because I know that you're probably neurotic about this. How do you know that you've replicated your road bike position, and what saddle are you using?
You cannot. That's the big downside. You're like never, even if you go as aggressive as you can, it's always more relaxed in the road bike. I'm using just the Peloton saddle. I mean, I will jump. I could do a month on the Peloton. I jump on my road bike. It feels weird for, I don't know, 10 minutes. We're about to do this. When we go to Tucson, I'll jump on the road bike for the first time in a month.
Right.
Feels weird for a minute, but then, I don't know. Like you kind of get used to it quicker than you'd think. But yeah, you're not, I mean, that's where the Zwift bike, or, I mean, if you want to be totally crazy, like the Watt bike, but that's so expensive and so big. I don't know why you would do that. But
yeah.
Watt bike, I guess, isn't going to sponsor us now.
Well, also a little known fact, Watt bikes they come with one crank length and it's 170 millimeters, I believe.
Is that true?
Yeah, it is true. They don't have an adjustable crank length, which a lot of these bikes now have adjustable crank length. They just drill a couple of holes in a longer crank arm. I think with the stages, rest and power stages.
I think it may be coming back. I got bought by Giant.
Well, Giant Aqua hired the executive team and then nuked everyone else. But yeah, I think they're coming back, which Giant used to have their own power meter. So maybe they needed that Stages technology, which I personally love Stages products. I think they're great. I own, I think, 4 of their arms.
Yeah, I do too. Here's my question. So it really interesting. Stages owed Giant 15 million, like couldn't pay it. And then Giant bought them for 20 million. So I assume they just gave them 5 million in cash and then hired them all. So,
maybe, or they might have hired them and given them $5 million in equity to split among the executive team and probably like a 2-year vest.
And then like the poor Stages investor that didn't get hired is sitting out there like, great.
Right.
Some equity in Giant. Awesome.
Yeah. Which is, Anyway.
Shimano. Today, Pogacar, I don't think we mentioned this about his Peter Attia interview. It was like, yeah, the Shimano power meters suck. Like you can't trust them.
Yep.
Like Shimano cannot make a power meter. It's unbelievable that why didn't they just buy Stages? It's like, boom, problem solved. Maybe they thought it was too expensive and it doesn't matter if their power meters work or not. But I was shocked by that.
Yeah, completely. Apparently it's hard to make an accurate power meter. Like, I don't know.
I guess. And these guys like sitting in a business park in Boulder are just like the only ones that can make a single sided power meter. So for the Peloton I do use, it's a company called Osimo. It's like the Favaro. Right. It's incredible. Yeah. It's a pedal-based power meter. I cannot recommend it enough if you want one that you can travel around and throw on rental bikes. It is far superior to the Garmin Vector, which I had before. Everything about it is just like better thought out. But on the Everesting, last thing on this, I came up with this because I did it one time during COVID And then I think faster than I've ever been in my life. Something about having, and doing it outside is even harder, but having to do 4,000 to 5,000 feet of climbing per day for a week, and then maybe a few rest days, and then you're flying. At least I am. It's like something about that forces me to ride in a zone for a whole week that my body responds really well to. So that's why we're doing this. Andrew.
Well, yeah, I think you're building your aerobic fitness and mitochondrial density would be my kind of bro science guess at that. I don't.
And we
think
all know
that's
the
bro science.
mitochondria are key.
Yeah,
We don't know what they are.
Yeah, we don't. They colonize our bodies. But yeah, that's I have the same experience, and I was thinking about it yesterday because at a certain point, it's kind of the abandon your family 500 versus doing an Everest in a week. When you're doing an Everest in a week, really, you're doing, at least for me, I tend to just be in like zone 2, and then I do some tempo efforts when I'm standing. But because you're climbing so much for such a long period of time, and there's more tension on the chain, so like there's a bit more muscle tension, I just tends to be like a pretty aerobic effort for me. And I think having a giant aerobic base, I think this more and more as I age. Actually, I think as much time as you can spend doing whatever aerobic activity in whatever time you have, whether that's walking, hiking, rucking, doing a lot of zone 2, zone 1, which, I mean, the trick here is most people don't have a lot of time to do that. But if you can squeeze it in, then you really see the benefits when it comes time to do something where you want to move faster, which might seem completely obvious, but I think a lot of people neglect that because, especially if you're riding with other people, the tendency is like you're going to be riding a bit harder and you just aren't going to put in the time in those lower zones. But that's, of course, what, the world's best do.
I totally agree. I think it puts you in the right zone. You're not, I go back and forth on this. I think I spent years just doing too many group rides, probably riding too hard. And then COVID happened and I just rode by myself at this Everest pace for a long, long time. And I was putting up probably faster KOM numbers, faster Strava numbers on long climbs than I ever had when I was actually trying to be fast and racing. So something to think about. Next thing, Andrew, before we get to the main event of the running, the CIA tricking us into running, have you been following cyclocross this year?
I have a lot of thoughts about it. And I like how you're kind of glancing over how you set that full flag KOM, taking it from what? From Dirt Duel, Tom Danielson, and Jonathan Vaughters. Also, I think knocking Neil Rogers a little further down the leaderboard.
What's crazy about full flag, like 27 minutes. I think that's my time. Used to be fast. And then like now people are doing it in like 23, 24 minutes. It's just crazy how fast it's getting. Also, Flagstaff, the fastest time I ever did it, the first time I did the climb. Never beat that time. Didn't know what was coming, I guess. Didn't have the mental block. Something to think about.
Yeah.
But so we had the usual, like, we start cross season, like Ellie Iserbit's winning, all these guys are winning. And then the grown-ups. Dad comes home. Matthew Vanderpool comes in. Just absolutely crushing people. Wout van Aert, not looking great, but it's whatever because he's coming back from injury. Then Matthew Vanderpool doesn't show up for the New Year's Day race, says, "Ooh, I crashed." And people are like, "You crashed? We didn't really see you crash." He's like, "I crashed, trust me. I'm hurt." Isn't racing. Van Aert looks great. Like this, but this is we've seen this movie before, right? Vanderpool's there, Van Aert doesn't look awesome. Vanderpool goes home. Van Aert looks amazing. Maybe a little bit bigger than normal, but just putting on some muscle during his recovery, probably with his knee issue. And now they're not slated to face off again until January 25th. Like, where is Matthew Vanderpool? Has he am I just out of the loop, or like was this always the plan for him to disappear for a month? Is he in Spain just training?
Yeah, you're out of the loop. He got injured.
Well, like. Did he just hurt his ribs? Is that he break a rib, or what happened there?
Yeah, he could just be using this for plausible deniability to not have to drive his Lambo over to the cross course. If you haven't been following this storyline, apparently Matthew Vanderpool has a personal sponsorship from Lamborghini. And
is it Lamborghini or is it like
a dealership?
Heidenberg's Lamborghini dealership.
That's a really good question. I think he might I don't know. Somebody fact check me. Somebody find out who's in mainland Europe. Please write in and tell us what's going on. You can DM me at Hardway Pod. I don't know what's going on. He has been showing up at races not in just a Lamborghini, in a variety of Lamborghinis.
Yeah, it's a new Lambo every race.
So maybe he just wanted some time off to go to the volcano and do whatever he's doing. That some of the things that are interesting to me about what's happening with Vanderpool and cyclocross. Number one, unless there's an act of God, and I think in recent days we have seen, like, who knows what's going to happen. He's going to win the cyclocross world championships, and maybe he just wants to focus on something else and not make promoters or the other riders look bad. Right? I mean, honestly,
that is crazy to think about, but it could be true.
Yeah. And I think we might have talked about this on the previous episode. Vanderpool, in post-race interviews as he began his cyclocross season, and if you haven't been following along, I know not everybody loves cyclocross or is thinking about things like Cody the Kid Kaiser riding the Valmont Belgian stairs in 2014 like I am. It's kind of burned into my memory. But Vanderpool showed up and in his first race just rode off the front. And I mean, he seriously had, I think, more than a minute within a lap and a half, which is just freaking insane. And after the race, he said he's like, I just kept it in zone 2, which is bananas. I don't think that was like him trying to mind F his opponents. I think really that's what he's doing. He's just like going out there and riding around, and he's that much better. And it honestly, like, I've really enjoyed it in years past, particularly when you had the Traces, the Three Titans, when you had Vanderpool, Wout, and the little engine that could, Tom Pidcock, because he wasn't really like quite on their level, but he was a try-hard, and he could.
He's like the little brother they like let come along with them.
Yeah. It was fun to watch those three battle it out. Now, seriously, it's like the extras and Spaceballs, like back there behind Vanderpool. It's gotten boring for me at this point. I don't even really enjoy watching it anymore, honestly, which I never thought I would say. I love cyclocross, but it's just kind of dull. So he's basically ruined the sport. And I think him leaving and doing whatever he's doing is good for the sport until he comes back and then destroys everyone to get his 8th cyclocross world championship, which I think is what's going to happen. I also
think it's his 7th. 6.
Are you sure?
Hold on a second.
All right. Well, Spencer's fact checking that because I know
he's won too many. It says here 15, 19, because remember, Wout won 16, 17, 18. So 15, 19, 20, 21, doesn't win 22 because he doesn't go. Tom Pidcock wins 23, 24. So this would be his 7th if he wins this year.
Dude, I think you just said 7 years though. Am I wrong?
15, 19, 20.
Okay, all right.
21, 22, 20, 21, 23, 24. So 6.
Okay, all right. So I'm off by 1, which is statistically significant.
I think the only reason it matters is because I think someone else has won 6, maybe even 7. He's the best of all time, though. There's like no debating it. Like I usually reject the premise of people ruining a sport. He's actually ruined it. Like, you can't. There's nothing fun.
I mean, the other thing that's become evident this season, and granted, Wout is coming back from yet another catastrophic injury. Wout's not close to being on his level, and I don't think stands a chance. And full strength,
why he's not going to Worlds, probably.
Yeah, and I was thinking about someone you sometimes host podcasts with who splits time between Austin and Aspen. He had Alex Honnold on recently, and he was talking to him about
the comments.
Well, I mean, one of the
this is why I went in tour stages at 49.
Yeah,
that's a comment Andrew put on that interview.
That's correct. The thing that struck me about that, though, because I think this is true, and this goes back to my theory of Wout and like what's happened to Wout over time. So Matthew Vanderpool, he doesn't have kids. Wout Van Aert is a father. He's had like several near death experiences. Has almost died on his bike a couple of times. And the point that Lance made in that Alex Honnold interview was, sprinters kind of lose their edge once they become parents, typically, because it goes from YOLO to, man, I want to hold my kid at the end of this race or like after the season. So they start to think about their mortality a bit more. And I think that's one of the things that's definitely happening with Wout. Like Wout's on the leading edge of this movement too. He's said, hey, yeah, like let's restrict gears. Let's do something to slow down the sport, especially on downhills, because I think the sport's overly dangerous. At a practical level, I completely agree with Wout. And also, I'm not sure the newest 18-year-old Slovenian coming into the World Tour and winning from downhill attacks, which we'll probably see this year, is going to have the same view. So I'm kind of wondering, number one, Wout does seem to have lost his edge. And number two, I really think it is not good for his psychology and his chances of winning Paris-Roubaix or Flanders, which he's stated are his goals this year, going head-to-head with Vanderpool, given that Vanderpool's just absolutely dominating him. And I think not just physically, but mentally at this point in a big way.
My pushback on that, let's say the last race we saw Wout van Aert do, real race, road, the Vuelta, he was amazing. Maybe the best I've ever seen him. He would have won the green jersey and the KOM jersey in 4 stages. Pretty good.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the Tour de France. The last time he raced, I guess he raced the Olympics against Vanderpool. They looked both pretty good. Both got beat. Looks pretty good in the TT too. Got a medal. Tour de France just absolutely wipes the floor with Vanderpool. Vanderpool is a freaking traffic cone at the Tour. Like yes, he looks fantastic. It sounds crazy even minimizing because what he's doing in the classics is unbelievable. But it's not like this guy's Pogacar. Like he's taking entire Grand Tours off while Van Aert is amazing. So I don't know if it's totally fair to just be like, oh, he's dominating every time they race. Like Van Aert is racing an extra part of the season, basically, that Vanderpool just punts. And therefore he can put all his energy into the classics, which maybe makes it look like he's dominating Van Aert when he's just surrendering an entire other part of the season.
I'm going to push back on your pushback. And as Spencer knows, listeners, you don't know this. Yesterday, I was up here in the home office in the middle of a pretty important meeting. I look outside. I see chickens running everywhere. I see feathers all over the ground. We have a 2 rooster problem. It's similar to the 3 body problem in physics. So I thought there might have been a fight to the death going on. I leave the meeting. I sprint outside. It's like 5 degrees. Like, what carnage am I going to walk into? Turns out it's not my roosters this time. It's a hawk, and it's got one of my chickens pinned down. The chicken's so scared, it squeezed itself between 2 boards and a fence and is stuck. I literally pry the hawk off. The hawk flies off, and then I'm in like a jaws of life situation. I have to find some way to get this chicken out from between these boards without harming it. I know for a lot of you, chickens are just egg producers or pets. My kids love the chickens, so I'm doing everything I can to save this chicken. I just want to say, I think I've got you pinned down right now, Spencer, like that hawk had that chicken pinned down.
I need someone to come along with a hydraulic.
It's jaws of life.
Cut me out of this.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking about recent statements that Matthew Vanderpool has made. I'm very curious what you think about them, given what you've just described, which is you are correct that when it comes to the Tour, where Matthew Vanderpool has slid into this role of the world's best lead-out man, and he, of course, is a non-factor or non-present in a lot of these races where Wout's dominating. Vanderpool has said, I don't care about the Tour anymore. Like, what's left there for me to accomplish?
Maybe win more state. Oh my God. That triggers me. So
I know. I knew this would set you off. That's why it's such a good topic. Yeah. So, like, what's going on there, do you think? And does that kind of contravene your position on, well, Wout's dominant in these races when Vanderpool really he's become a lead out man. So like, we're going to have a multi-tiered thread here. That's part one. Part two, if Vanderpool is true to his word and does not show up at the Tour this year, or he says, I'm done with stage racing. What happens to Jasper Philipsen? Because I think that his star starts to fade without the world's best lead out man who's basically handing him wins.
Yeah, no, you're right. It is a big problem for Philipsen. I mean, the three body problem. We should call this. I'm trying to think of a clever name for this phenomenon, but you're seeing in cycling like Jonathan Navarez going to UAE. You're like, well, that doesn't make any sense because he's a classics rider and the best classics rider in the world is at UAE. How's that going to work? But there's this new rule in cycling is like the closer you get to the most dominant rider, the better chance you have to win versus riding against them. Like think about Sanremo. Philipsen wins because of Van der Poel, because Van der Poel's closing down. The whole game of Sanremo is get a teammate over the Poggio with you, and then you have someone to close down attacks if you're the sprinter, because no one's going to work with you if you're Philipsen otherwise. He wins Sanremo because everyone is so obsessed with Van der Poel, and Van der Poel's working for him. Same thing happens in the Tour. These great leadouts, like world-class leadouts, because Van der Poel's better than almost anybody else. That's a pretty good person to be leading you out. Yeah, if he's not there, like I don't think Philipsen has nearly the sprinting career that he has. So I don't know. Do we know if he's skipping the Tour? I bet he's going to I bet they make him go to the Tour.
How could they let him skip the Tour?
I mean, that's so important for the team and for, more importantly, Canyon Bikes that he's at the Tour that
right.
I think he's got to go. But it is this interesting phenomenon I've noticed where like if you want to win big classics, you have to be on the best guy's team because you can't beat them otherwise. Like if you want to beat Pogacar, if you want to win a Grand Tour, go race for Pogacar, and then you know the race he's not going to be at, and you can target that race and you can win. Or this wouldn't happen in a Grand Tour. Like no one would be so obsessed with Pogacar. I mean, this happened with Sepp Kuss, though. If you think about it, like everyone was so obsessed with Vindigo, he rides away in a break, wins a Grand Tour because of that at the Vuelta in 2023. So, you know, maybe that could happen. But yeah, if you want to win big races, be on the team with the big riders. Van der Poel, is it good to be? I mean, I guess it is what it is. Like he knows what he's doing. He had a great spring last year. We should remember this is like December and January. Like maybe not the best time to be peaking, but is peaking a thing? What is peaking? Can you just be good all the time? Who knows? So I don't know how much I would read into it in terms of road, but other than Van der Poel's good. What's he running from though? You know, while it's going home to the family, Van der Poel's out there. All he has is the mud, the trees, and the bike. is he looking for more? Is that why he's on his vision quest right now? Interesting thing about him that I still like have questions about this. So I'm looking at his schedule last year. He lives in a beautiful home in Spain, Matthew Van der Poel, on the coast, next to that hotel. If you remember the Zwift Alpecin de Koning training camp series, and they're staying at
I think it's near the grade on Oh Hell No.
So he lives down on like the Costa Blanca, great house. So he does E3, Ghent Wevelgem, Flanders, Roubaix, Amstel Gold, Liège, Bastogne-Liège. I heard he was flying home in between every one of those races. Like that's how much this man wants to get to Spain and does not want to be in Belgium. Yeah, like and so is he taking I have many questions about this. Is he taking a private jet? Like if so, that's easy. If not, like what are you going to, like you flying like EasyJet? Like there's not often like, oh, you can't just like buy a first class ticket sometimes between these non-target market European cities. Like I don't know if you can fly business class between Brussels and Valencia. Like you might just be like, is he taking his bike? Certainly not, but like that does add up. And like if you remember, he was obviously fantastic at Flanders and Roubaix. And then he kind of started to fade a little bit later in the spring. I'm like, is it the EasyJet flights that are getting to him? Those EasyJet sandwiches are not hitting as well 4 weeks in to this weekly trip.
You're right. He doesn't strike me as the kind of guy that's flying scheduled, you know?
It must have been private, right? I mean, yeah. I asked someone about this, like, no, he's not taking a private jet. But yeah, like, can you imagine you're just like, you can buy these actually pretty good tickets if you need to travel between strange European cities. You can sit at the front on EasyJet. It's a pretty good seat. You get to board first. You get to take a bag, unlike everybody else in the back. But can you imagine sitting down and like Van der Poel's like squeezing in next to you, like drinking the bad coffee? I can't. He must be flying private.
Yeah, they've got to have a private Nespresso on board for him. I just wanted to say, all right, I've done a little digging in the course of this conversation. So Van der Poel is a brand ambassador for Lamborghini Antwerp. He is on the Lamborghini main site, and he's talking about, I've just got to read this quote. So they have kind of a lifestyle profile of him. He's photographed with his personal Lamborghini Urus, not the coolest looking Lamborghini in my opinion. And he says, cycling is my life, and the Lamborghini Urus suits my life. It's my perfect car. It's about performance, but I've also allowed myself exclusivity. And because my bicycle goes with me, it's got the trunk space I need. It's also that trunk is good for bearing the bodies of all of his opponents he's vanquishing in cyclocross.
Helly is a better.
Yeah, would fit very tidily in that trunk. Yeah.
Lars van der Haar's hopes of ever winning a race are in that trunk.
Oh, man. What a bummer. I was going to say, though, so Van der Poel has declared that he wants to win the Mountain Bike World Championships in 2025, and he wants to win an Olympic gold in mountain bike in 2028. So it seems like this guy's going for the World Championships real flush.
Yeah, I normally would hate this. Going back to, I just think this is a trap. Going back to Tokyo when he didn't attend the meeting and didn't know they were.
Yeah.
But I don't know shit about mountain biking. And I would know if I pre-rode that course, I'd say, yeah, they're taking this thing out. Like, of course they're not going to have a little kiddie ramp for us in the Olympic mountain bike race. They're taking the ramp out. But he doesn't attend the rider briefing meeting, doesn't know they're taking this ramp out, just eats SHIT, hurts his back really bad. It's like that is a great example of why you shouldn't try to win mountain bike races as a professional road cyclist. But I do kind of like this move. 2025 road worlds are in Rwanda, like extremely mountainous course. Don't even do it. Just like don't go. It's gonna be a lot. It's not like you're going to Zurich. You're not taking a 45-minute flight to Zurich, private flight to Zurich. Like it's just not even worth going to. He's not going to win. Yeah, why not chase the mountain bike worlds that summer? You don't care about the tour, so who cares? Maybe skip the tour. Just train for mountain bike worlds. Win it. You're a legend.
Yeah.
Poor mountain bike, by the way. Can you imagine being like a professional mountain biker and these roadies are just like, yeah, I think I'll win mountain bike worlds this year. I'll win 2 Olympics in a row. Sorry. And I don't know why I can't get this out of my head, but the same Austin Aspen resident you discussed said on a show recently, he's like, well, Pidcock's pay is actually a deal because what's the best mountain biker in the world get paid? It's certainly 7 figures. Do you think that's true? Like, what is a top mountain biker making?
A top mountain biker? Like Nino, who has his own helicopter?
Yeah, Nino, I guess.
By the way, what is, do you know anything about this, like just the Swiss mountain bike community? So I've gone down every cycling content rabbit hole in existence for 35 plus years now, but I've gone deep on these Swiss pro cross country riders. So Nino owns a helicopter and has become a helicopter pilot and appears to have quite a nice
having a lawnmower in Switzerland.
Yeah, has quite a nice luxury lifestyle. And then I've just seen a number of these other Swiss pros. There's another guy on the Scott team because Thomas Frischnick is his coach, and they did a profile of him and he's in front of it's like at his family's home. And it looked like, I don't know real estate prices in Switzerland, but this was like a 15,000 square foot dwell compound that clearly like some famous architect built. Is this just kind of like standard fare for your average Swiss peasant, or are these from like the upper crust of Swiss society and like cross country is a popular sport with the elites there?
Well, just to even expand this outside of cross country, I don't understand Switzerland. I have the same questions about Switzerland that you have about these Swiss mountain bikers because, yeah, it appears like you just meet regular Swiss people and they're just super rich, for lack of a better term. I don't understand that country. Like you go to get a coffee, it's like $12. Like who can afford these coffees? Apparently, all the Swiss people can. I mean, I did investigate this. A friend of mine lives in Switzerland. He was saying that, so there's no inheritance tax. So think about that. If you've owned property since 10,000 or 1,000 AD, and you've been passing that property down since then, you're not paying any inheritance tax. Can you imagine the wealth you could accumulate? You know, like if you own a bunch of office buildings in Zurich, like that's spitting off so much rent money. And you're never getting, like, you're not getting a 40 to 50% haircut like you would in the US every time you pass this down. So you could probably accumulate a lot of money, not a lot of wars. So they didn't lose a lot in that respect. And they've actually gained on wars because people put money in Swiss bank accounts
Yeah.
and then they die. This is like famous. This is the Holocaust, I guess, infamous, where all these Jewish people weren't allowed to immigrate to Switzerland. They put all their money into Swiss bank accounts so it wouldn't get taken by the Nazis. They are murdered in a genocide in concentration camps. And then Switzerland is like, sweet, now we have all this money. And they just use the interest from that money for themselves, which is illegal, by the way, but they do it anyway. So I think there's a lot of that going on in Switzerland. And they just have been lucky not to be in wars and can pass money on without it being taxed, which you probably could get quite nice houses if you did that. I also think like 85% of the population rents, which tells you 15% of the population owns all of the country's real estate.
There you have it. There you have it. So cross country, a niche discipline with some helicopter pilots and some fantastic, beautiful homes.
I didn't know, he's from a Romansh speaking part of the country. I did not know that about him. That's like beautiful mountains and they speak like a really, really old language. Quite interesting. A lot of languages in Switzerland too. I don't fully understand that.
Yeah. Nino's something.
Nino's pension is $1 million a year.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, they probably have like full retirement for him at his wage. So going back to your question, who's making €1 million, million, whatever? I think Nino may have been. Other than that, honestly, like I don't really think it's possible anybody is in cross country mountain biking.
That's what I thought. Yeah, Nino's his own thing.
Yeah, we're not going to get into crop top territory. I will say I've consumed some interesting content recently by current professional triathletes who are pretty open about just the finances and economics of that sport and how few people actually are really making a full-time living being professional triathletes. Kind of similar to gravel, I think, and for the most part, mountain biking in the United States. But maybe it's a bit different over there. You know, maybe you can be this cross-country mountain biker and still a big thing.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess it is. It does seem a little bit bigger over there. A lot of people mountain biking in Europe. Like, shock. You think it was 1996 in the United States. Like, everyone's got a mountain bike out. Gravel, what's that? Is that what I ride my mountain bike on to get to my mountain bike trails? But Andrew, our last topic, running. What is happening here? And if we'll give some background on people, there's this phenomenon going on. I guess it's mainly on social media where so we had Scott McGill on here and like I follow Demi Vollering on Instagram. And if you just follow her on Instagram, you would think she's a professional runner. Like she seems to run twice a day, runs constantly, posts about it constantly. I'd assume part of this is increasing your, and this is not just Demi Vollering, like a lot of like, there was a prominent gravel cyclist that was like, you know what I'm looking forward to in 2025? More running. You're like, what? This is, you're a cyclist. What's happening here? Like Kate Courtney, always running. I mean, maybe this is good for you. We had Scott McGill on here, professional cyclist, and he was like, yeah, no, I never run. I don't know what you're talking about. Why would I be running? I mean, you have heard of like Primoz Roglic going on runs. That's kind of where this started. But part of me kind of wonders if this is a way to increase your sponsor surface area, because like to go back to Demi Vollering, she's recently signed a deal with Nike. Nike makes no cycling clothing. So how does that work? She has to pick up a pursuit that maybe is in Nike's wheelhouse. Like her team, FDJ, that she signed with, they came to California recently. I didn't even see them riding bikes at all. They just seemed to be on a running camp in California. And then all of a sudden they're signed, the whole team now is signed by Nike. That would be my guess. But what I know you are vehemently anti-running. So this must bother you. Like this must hurt you deeply.
I think that it started with Roglic. We never actually got confirmation from anyone, right? Like
we heard that maybe that wasn't happening.
Yeah, potentially a false flag. And then the next thing you know, everybody's trying to get the best 5K in the off season. As you said, we've got teams that are becoming Nike sponsored. Maybe they want access to some of Nike's legendary advanced performance techniques. Who knows?
Hollowing out bodies and the athletes, things in them.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, from a bone density and just like general health point of view, it's running is weight bearing, and it's good for your bone density, which we know is something elite cyclists struggle with. However, for the average amateur, the thing that's going to make you faster on a bike, especially if you have limited time, is getting on Oh Hell No on Zwift and riding the grade. Probably, I'm not sure it's going out for the turkey trot. But I don't know, maybe from a general health point of view, maybe it's a durability thing for cyclists. That's the thing that I see most commonly when I hear high performance experts and coaches from world tour teams talk about it. They just say like, yeah, hey, we're doing this for bone density. And that makes sense, because if you have extremely brittle bones and you crash, you're going to have a bit of a Humpty Dumpty type situation. So I think having stronger bones would be a competitive advantage from a durability and crash recovery point of view. But
I heard Matteo Jorgensen is running this winter because of that exact thing. He doesn't want to break bones. But then a prominent cycling journalist who's also like a very, very good runner was like, no, that's a myth. So now I don't know what to believe.
Interesting. Yeah, I actually looked into this because I was very curious as I age, like what does promote bone density. And I read the research about doing heavy weightlifting and then also about running. And the thing with running specifically, like it is the impact of running, which over time, if you're doing it too much, can be really detrimental for your joint health and your back and other things. That's why if you know anybody who's been a lifelong runner, I'm talking about like a serious endurance runner, you probably, as they age, like you're looking at knee replacements, hip replacements. I don't think I'm exaggerating. I know a lot of people who have been through those scenarios. They probably have a very healthy heart though. But like a little bit can go a long way. And the research does show it's actually that impact which helps increase bone density. So it's running, but you don't need that much of it. Or you also could like skip rope. There are a lot of other things you could do.
Yeah, I generally agree with you, especially on the getting faster. Someone asked me this in like 2015 and it just got stuck in my head. I ran so little, but I grew up running. My background is running. I went on like a 10K with them, did it pretty fast, and like could not walk the next day.
Right.
Like, I was like crawling around Seattle, but they were like, "Oh, if you ran more, do you think you'd be faster on the bike?" But I don't think so. I think to be faster on the bike, the key thing is riding your bike a lot, like on Oh Hill No. Like that's how you get fast on bike. So it is mind blowing to me that you have professional cyclists that are just running like every day in the middle of the season. I don't understand. I can understand like off season if you're just looking for something different, but especially if you're then having a season that you're having a performance dip and you're not as good as you were in the years past. That is like mind boggling to me. Like what is going on? Like any energy you spend running, you should be spending cycling and getting faster. That's for top level cyclists though. And if you want to just be really fast at cycling, what I'm now wrestling with as I enter a different phase of my life, let's say I have 30 minutes to work out at 6 a.m. in the morning. I think a 30-minute run could be helpful to me. In full disclosure, I went on some beach runs recently and might have been the hardest workouts I did all year. Holy smokes, that's not easy. But and that's what I used to do every morning. I just like run on the beach. I felt like it put me in very good shape. But I do feel like I think we disagree on this. Like if I have 30 minutes to work out, going for a run in that 30 minutes probably will have like better whole body health benefits and fitness benefits than jumping on a bike for 30 minutes. I mean, maybe jumping on a trainer and just like going straight into the same zones you would be running is actually better. But like if I go out on a bike ride, I'm wasting 10 minutes just like getting on the bike path, things like that. Like I feel like running, you're immediately into the aerobic workout.
Yeah, Spencer, as you and anyone who's listening knows who follows me on Instagram at HardwayPod or at Font, I am now a Thighfluencer. And I've been doing a lot of strength training over the past 4 months. My OnlyFans is going to be opening soon. I'll have some exclusive photo sets of my
We had a
thighs.
sticker, a nice little sticker you put in the
Yeah.
group chat yesterday. Print that out, pass that out.
Yeah, but I mean, my point of view on this is if you're really interested in health, I think actually the thing that most cyclists don't do that you absolutely should be doing for durability, for just general health, is you should be lifting weights. And Dialed Health has a really fantastic program specifically for cyclists. I recommend checking that out. Personally, so does Wukar, which is he's a strength trainer out of Utah. He trains Keegan, Sophia, and a lot of other top gravel athletes. So if you want a gravel specific program, check him out. It's Wukar Fit on Instagram. I've been doing a program from the Mountain Tactical Institute, which is based out of Jackson, Wyoming, because my younger brother, who's much stronger than me, challenged me to do this. So I've been doing it. And what I've found is I just like, number one, if you're doing strength training, not like, CrossFit stuff where there's maybe a higher probability of getting injured, but if you know what you're doing and you select the right movements, like with this Mountain Tactical program I've been doing, you're going to get your heart rate up quite high. You're doing strength training. And what I've found is that there's something about strength training where it's actually, if you're doing the right movements, like I do a lot of get ups with the sandbag, it's like loaded mobility, and you're moving your body in a way that you're actually dynamically stretching it under a heavy load. And I've just found that makes my body feel exponentially better than doing just traditional like bench, deadlift, squat. It makes me strong. I'm wearing a heart rate monitor while I'm doing these workouts, and it's high, like it's around probably what it would be running. I'm getting stronger, I'm getting more durable, and I feel a hell of a lot better on the bike. It's just, if you're not doing anything besides things like cycling or running, you kind of don't realize how bound up your hips are getting, like how tight your back is, until you incorporate some loaded movement that can start to unwind that. And for me, I'm like, wow, this is like an absolute necessity just to feel good on the bike and to like be healthy in life. And also, if you're like us and you've got kids, you need to, in my opinion, you should be capable of carrying your entire family if you have to.
Which I do every morning.
Yeah.
Down the stairs. And I do feel like you get stronger when you have, I know this is big on the Ryan Russillo podcast. With this is quickly turning into an episode of the Ryan Russillo podcast, but someone wrote in and said their arms got bigger when they had kids and they were making fun of them on the show. I'm like, it definitely, like, I definitely gained muscle after I had kids. And it's like, why? People say about dad strength because your dad's freaking carrying you around all the time. He's getting stronger. He's got to carry your ass everywhere. Also, I think Navy SEAL training should be like, here's 2 30-pound bags of rice. Get them to the Frankfurt airport from your home now with a bunch of bags and shit. Like that. That is what being a parent is. But do you think if let's say you did no biking, and then you had to pick between a 45-minute run or a 45-minute your dynamic weight workout, which is key? Because if I just, you said like more dynamic than deadlifts and bench press, I did like a year where I only just went to the gym and did like bench press and squats and deadlifts. And you could roll me down the hill. Like I was as wide as I am tall. I had the Rogan body, I call it. I need a little bit of dynamism there to not look like that.
Yeah.
But if you had to pick between your weight workout and running for 45 minutes a day for, let's say, 6 months, do you think you'd be faster on the bike from the running or the weightlifting?
Oof. Wow. That's a tough one. I mean, ultimately, I actually think I have a pretty good data set, because after Steamboat Gravel this year and the incident at Little Toots, honestly, I've never been as burned out in my life on bike riding as I was after training for that event. I just was like, man, I need a break from this in a way I haven't felt in like 30 years. So I just spent a lot of time strength training, which I really enjoyed. What I did notice, I think most data that wearables give you is absolute garbage, and the science validates this. Like I've looked into all the research and talked to the world's top exercise physiologists and sleep scientists for research I've done to help develop the Better Lab product. A metric that I pay attention to and that I believe is important and experts do as well is your resting heart rate. And what I noticed is I focus more on strength training, even with an elevated heart rate. And this is where I actually really prefer cycling versus running from a time efficiency standpoint, even if it's 30 minutes. It's just, you can get your heart rate up to a level of high demand. So for me, I could get to like tempo or higher, somewhere between tempo and VO2 max in 30 minutes. It's it would be very easy for me and for you, Spencer, I think, to just like go sit in tempo on a trainer for 30 minutes and probably to throw in, I don't know, 10, 20-second sprints or something like that. The aerobic load you're going to get from that, I think, is superior to what you're going to get from running, which is going to be like a medium hard effort almost all the time, right? It's like when you go out, it's going to be medium hard to very hard. It's going to feel miserable, but I think you're getting the bigger bang for your buck on the bike. To answer your question, though, if it's just aerobic benefit that you're after, because I think that's what's going to benefit cycling the most, then I think running is going to be the better thing, but I think it's worse for your total health.
Okay, yeah. I tracked. I tend to agree with you. I think and I think running, like, you get more bang for your buck a little bit because I'm not as good at it. Maybe if I was a really good runner.
Yeah, you're inefficient. Sure.
Yeah.
But you could say that for anything. So an argument could be made. Maybe it's not, I'm going to go run every time. Maybe it's like one day a week I'll run. Because if it's just 30 minutes of running once a week, it's probably good for your bone health. And it's not likely to be damaging to your joints. But something like that, you can go out and ruck, which I do every day with my dog, and combine with doing a Zen meditation every morning. So like getting in rucks is good. And then like weightlifting, I think they're all good activities. But I think for general health, which is not what this podcast is about. It's about the relentless pursuit of performance and professional sport, even as master athletes. And as Spencer mentioned, I am planning to enter the world tour later this summer. And this is not a joke. My sponsor me letters are going out today to a select group of manufacturers and potential sponsors if you want to get in the mix for the 2025 gravel season. Some really big plans, some massive content projects being created around these spectacular events, including I am planning to go to Garmin Gravel World to experience that sweet Nebraska gravel.
Whoa, I don't think that's like too far from me. Maybe Well, yeah, that's news, not rock.
More of a sprint distance, like 75 miler. I'm thinking I'm mainly going for the Runza,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The Runza. Actually, hot take cheeseburger at Runza.
Oh,
very
man.
Good.
I'm sure it is good. Yeah, I'm sure it's fantastic. Proximity to feedlots. They're at Runza.
They're right there.
Yeah.
It's feedlot to table.
Yeah.
But on rucking, I think the fittest I've ever felt is I did like 2 weeks, like hut to hut hiking. So you're like hiking every day, long hikes, like 7-8 hours with everything in your backpack that you need, and then riding in the morning, like let's say an hour to 90 minutes of high intensity, like alpine riding. And then I came back and won a stage at the Steamboat Springs stage race. And I felt like the hiking combined with the little bit of running, cycling every day, like I was flying, which I wouldn't have guessed without doing that. But before we go, I got to run. But we think our conclusion is weight management, that could be why pro cyclists are running. But why is this happening? What's your take here? What's your theory? Why is everyone now a runner in talking about it online?
I think this is just a great example of an idea virus. I think once someone, not being serious, so like people read about Roglic doing it. I think that this is a false flag to kind of undermine his competitors. Pog did release some video when he was recovering from his wrist injury last year, where he was doing some running and some stuff that just honestly seemed kind of stupid to me. Like he had a loaded backpack and was out running around with it, which you should never run with weight on your back. It's a really bad idea. But again, like that's a good example of he's just sowing disinformation out there, fear, uncertainty, and
and
doubt.
like who knows? Like, was that a real workout, or was he like, "Hey, film me doing this"?
Yeah, or maybe he just said he had weight in his backpack and they threw a packing blanket in there. Like, who knows?
Yeah.
So I think people see something like that. Next thing you know, you're out of Valmont, you're riding the Belgian stairs. Somebody's like, "Hey, actually, I'm focused on stage racing, but 80% of my training is actually with my run club. We're having a great time. We've got the CLA hats with the brims flipped up. It's a lot more fun." And then it spreads all over Instagram, which I think drives, for better or worse, most of people's ideas about training now, So I think
I do think
next thing you know, like, everybody's, you're not a professional cyclist, you're a run club member now. And I do think that your point about, I hadn't thought about this, but it makes a ton of sense. Yeah, running just has a much bigger total addressable market. And if you're a professional athlete in cycling, totally makes sense that if you could go jog once a week and bring in another 100K from some kind of running sponsorship. Yeah, you're wearing the Hokas and you show up at UTMB to sign autographs and drink some electrolyte fluid. Great.
Yeah, that's what I've been thinking recently. I'm like, these Nike bags getting dropped. That's a little suspicious, but I've got to run, Andrew. Thank you so much. We've gone deep into our own fitness theories, which I guess is okay this time of year. But have a great day, and we will talk to you next week.
Yeah, you have a great day too, Spencer. And I'm hoping next time we can get into Aldo Ilisic and Colin Strickland's 2016 ride at Red Hook, Brooklyn.
A rewatch.